John Dramani Mahama giving his wrap-up speech and especially commending those notable participants who made the effort to respond to the invitation of government to attend or participate in the National Economic Dialogue. And again, we say congratulations to them for their efforts as well. Well, let's take what the pointers are. The first, as read by Dr. Patrick Ewa, said that the Directive Principles of State Policy, Chapter 6 of the 1992 Constitution, must continue to guide the national development effort, anchored in a long-term national development framework with a compelling vision.
Yeah, if you get to the chapter, you see that it sets out the objective, government objectives, economic objectives, political objectives, social objectives, the duties of the citizen.
Yes.
And if you work with it perfectly and you add a long-term developmental effort, like a development plan, simply put, and if you put something, and then you see not just the plan, but they came out a compelling vision. You see, that means that there is a call now that Ghana should chart a course. You decide what you really want, set the targets, and pursue them. And we have a very wonderful constitution that gives the blueprint as to how the main targets that you were supposed to get. But it takes such a framework. And I can't see any. We've had a lot of documents that we run, like HIPIC Initiative, Vision 2020, name them. But Vision this is the time we sit down as a nation.
GPRS 1,
GPRS 2. And these are more like not what we cut out as a nation, depending on our strengths and to develop the nation. It's more like looking for bailouts from the Bretton Woods institution, and this one
customizing a document
to meet. But this one, bring it out. In the next 20 years, how do you want Ghana to look like? This is the case with this part.
And the second said that long-term national interest should supersede all interests. What's the meaning of that? Because in this very, I think, response, just like you would also respond by the critics and the economists, more like you, has been that, well, we need to do things in the open, more transparent.
That's right.
And in unity.
That's
well, there's the criticism that we have a lot of polarity in our national body politic, and that has also influenced the kind of discourse or discussions we have on national issues.
And that's the problem. So this is a call that everybody, all sectors of the economy, including the media in particular, we have to take the national interest supreme and superior. And I think that we should get back to education. While we work on those of us who have matured already, work with the young ones in schools. And I think that the social studies concept, document, should be changed to civics, where nationalism and patriotism is very high in the people. So you come out, you take the job, and you know you are serving the nation first. Whatever decision you take, whatever documents you sign, you look at it in the national interest. But I wouldn't be surprised, and I think a lot of Ghanaians will not be surprised, if people are looking into documents and looking at what cuts comes to them. If they know that this particular institution will deliver a service, but the officer to execute it will not benefit personally, they throw it away. But they will look for the one that will get a percentage to them. And this issue of 10%, 10%, 10% on every contract, it's become almost like a normal and a formality in the system. But if the national interest is high and supreme, then this issue, you look for value for money. If you go through the entire thing, that's what it calls for. Policies should concentrate on value for money, create the value, and the money will come anyway. It's just a matter of
that the state also encourages and promotes indigenous entrepreneurship and continues to execute projects and programs commenced by previous governments.
Yeah, that's key. And
well, we already promote entrepreneurship. We have a number of funds that have been made available.
That's why I have to come with this entrepreneurship. And there's specifically, if you want to promote it, we have at institutions by government from JEDA and other places. Let me boil it back to microfinance. If you look at the idea behind microfinance, it's not how we run it here. Microfinance was propagated by the concept by Mohammed Yohannes, an Indian, American Indian. And that was his thesis, actually. And America adopted it. The purpose of it is to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. Because they believe that the rich are rich because they create value. And the poor can catch up if they also create value. So you go to the cocoa seller, what is the net asset capital they require? If it is 50 cedis, You give it to the cocoa seller and help the cocoa seller to pay back. As the cocoa seller pays, he's able to pay the entire 50. Remember, he's still producing. He would have doubled it. Then he now qualifies for 200. And mostly in some communities, they target women because women are directly responsible to the kids. So at the end of the day, the business expands, and that's what microfinance, and the interest is very minimal. So that it motivates a lot of people. But the way we run it, the microfinances actually have the macro interest. And at the end of the day, the purpose of microfinance is defeated. And to promote this entrepreneurship, then the Bank of Ghana really have to set up again and do something about this.
Yeah, because we'll talk about the Bank of Ghana, because they've been mentioning some of the points and somewhere. Because if you look at Chapter 6 of the 1992 Constitution, which directly deals with the direct state of principles of state policy, are the issues of the clauses for the need to develop regions equitably, provide the services equitably, and make sure national distribution of resources are also equitably done.
That's right.
It means that we also need to have a rethink about perhaps the assistance or financial assistance that is given to entrepreneurs in which parts of the country, and how we get to encourage development of enterprises in certain aspects which perhaps are even more deprived than others.
Yeah, that's true. When we talk about equity and fair distribution of national cake for regionally, or by this way, sometimes it depends. You just don't do because this is a region and this is a district. Sometimes the contribution to GDP from the sector determines the resources that are allocated there. And then we also look at the population density. Now, based on but then sometimes you see some interventions of government which are abused. To be honest, I come from the northern region, Damongo specifically. But then, if you hear stories about SADA, that's supposed to raise income. I mean, just create jobs and bridge the gap. But then you see how it goes. But that is where some of the items they says we're talking about monitoring to ensure that the policy or the target for any unit of money that is released into the economy achieves that objective. And that the whole problem, if you take the activities, these economic issues, the policies from the Bank of Ghana and stuff, some of the challenges come because of supervision and monitoring. They bring the policy, it is good, but if you don't monitor with time lags, then you have some challenges because they slip.
Point 5 talks about how it is imperative to strengthen the public accounts and oversight responsibilities of Parliament, and to be able to manage public accounts and ensure there's effective synergy and coordination between the MMDA's National Development Planning Commission and the Office of the President. Well, these are fine, but these are not new. They've been identified before. They've just been reiterated. The point is that do we have the guts and the commitment to say these pointers and these comprehensive contributions would be implemented in the course of time?
For now, from what we have done so far, I would not be so positive. But let me take the president for his words for this time. I heard him saying they will implement everything to the letter. I just want to let's give him the benefit of doubt. And let's monitor. We are still in the same country. And see, at least 2 years to 2016 elections still enough for the implementation of these policies and to achieve the desired results that we want. 2 years is good enough. Because most serious policies, the time lag, yes, they are there. But within at least 3 months, you should begin to see some manifestation or some results from the policies. Yeah, you wouldn't expect a month to, but 3 months is good enough. The signs and the indicators will show that you come with a subsequent.
Well, we do understand all that, and we're only expressing optimism.
Yes, so that's
because the point is that there's not been the precedent. There's a proverb in local parlance that says that if the day will be good, you see it from the morning.
Yeah,
that's
correct. But then for this one, for the government or the president to sit back with his management team and say that, okay, let's put this forum together and bring people on board and let them see. Let's see, we have consensus as to how to change, and they have done that. And you see, people were even talking about the cost involved in organizing the forum. So they wouldn't spend this much and just take the recommendations and leave it on the decks there. So let's see, I'm sure the commitment is there. and they will restructure a lot of the committees and a lot of the board to implement this. I know that I think that will happen. So let's give the president the benefit of the doubt. He has promised to implement everything. And that means that civil society would have to support, because some of them are coming to tighten up and increase responsibilities in the job side. And that means that people will have to stay longer, people will have to give their best, and people will have to love the country, the interests, and do the right thing. And just to complement whatever the president will be doing. So that means that for once the people of this country should leave that selfishness and that personal ambition and dream down. Let's take Ghana now and push it. That's what I expect the presidency should do. Call on the people to give their best for their country, at least for the next year or two. We will see it ourselves, and nobody will ask us to give more. But if we all sacrifice, but we don't see, and that means that also that's another call to the same politician to also portray to us that they are committed to this, and they also operate based on value for money. You ask me to tighten my belt, and you're losing yours more, then obviously you wouldn't get the commitment.
Invariably, the state or the executive of government's ability to be able to manage if its fiscal expenditure or spending has been criticized over the last couple of years.
That's correct.
Now, it's not the first time that it has been criticized, but it's just because, well, we've come to a point where it's become excessive.
Yes.
So it means that it's something that is a feature or characterizes public expenditure.
That's good. But
now, if the recommendation is that, well, for example, we have a review of this year's targets in the budget, it means that we'll have to bring a new budget to Parliament.
And not necessarily, yeah, maybe a supplementary here. And
yeah, we'll call it supplementary
that's
budget.
Correct.
Well, we can invariably also call it a new budget, so to speak. But that is how now you want to guide your expenditure.
The expenditure.
Yeah, so
and that's very important.
So how do we make sure we guide public expenditure, or we guard public expenditure?
You here the main thing is to limit waste strongly and check all the loopholes and corruption. Then increase internally generated revenue. Not necessarily, yeah, the recommendation is not calling for new taxes, but to strengthen the existing ones to increase revenue, internally generated revenue is very core. Then recurrent expenditure must be checked strongly and pegged at a percentage, and we should decide the percentage. That's why you plan it. We currently going, I think it dropped from 60 something to 57 of the local, I mean the internally generated one. We can peg it somewhere 40 to start. That's quite huge. To drop from 57 to 40, it's not a small decrease. I mean for the year, for the rest of the year. Then while you increase the revenue, you also check and that's where they call for the second point I love is so much. The long-term national interest should supersede all other interests, and the people of the country should also support that. And then we'll look at it. But the waste is huge.
Yes, it's huge. Now, the huge waste in the system is not as a result of perhaps the misapplication of public funds necessarily by the political office holders, but because invariably the financial systems that we have in place, it makes it very easy, or has made it easy over the long term for decades for wastage to characterize the system. For example, we have difficulties in taking off retirees from the public wage bill. We have difficulties in putting on new workers onto the public wage bill. We have difficulties in trying to record whether a certain expenditure has been made quickly enough at a certain level of government fiscal spending or structure. And as a result of that, at the end of the day, you see that money is being sent to somebody who doesn't need to have it.
Yeah.
And all these result in
yeah, that is, so the whole system. And sometimes the delays, the bureaucracies within the services is a major problem. And some of the institutions are not able even to submit their budget within the time. So, and sometimes some of the funds too, they are not able even to disburse them. They get back to government yet. It's sent to be used, but because of bureaucracy, the time elapses and it goes back. And some will exhaust theirs and even ask for supplementary. And sometimes too, that's where the checks and balances must be strong.
When do we start the checks and balances?
The checks and balances, one of the recommendations talking about the public accounts and the finance committee, they have to sit up and be given an adequate power to punish whoever manages public funds, and that would be a kind of a disincentive. At the moment, you know, we are building a kind of culture that you just make money and you are hailed, you are respected in your community. Nobody cares to investigate how you make that money. For once, let people answer how they make their money and pay taxes on them. And then those who you find that they didn't get the money coup from the survey should be punished severely, just to discourage it. I mean, so we have the institutions, but they do not do what they're supposed to do.
This is not the first time I'm hearing this from an economist. And you will not be the last economist who will say this. The point is that as we make mention of these and point them out as flaws within the financial regulation system, how do we make sure that we tackle them head on?
I want to believe, number one, I don't know if it's possible, I'm not a lawyer, if it's possible to give them the powers of the courts, or to...
You mean the various quasi-judicial bodies that we have?
That's right, especially the Public Accounts Committee, because you see, when you watch and you listen, you will just see clearly that this person is formally struggling to cover up. And at the end of the day, nothing happens. Every sector, take the auditor's report, internal and external. They query several expenditure components of most of the government entities. The internal auditors will query, they will manage to cover up, external auditors will come and query, and nothing happens to the officers. So the audit service need to set up, public accounts need to set up, and if this institution, and particularly the audit service, is so key, so important to check how people spend the money. That's why they are there. But they are there, they at the moment, it's like they just help aid people to that, so to speak. I mean, it looks so raw, but that's the reality on the ground. So the audit service needs to be empowered. And even some corporate within the audit service should be dealt with seriously. And that's why I'm bringing everything back to supervision by the government. Because if you turn the political, some cases, the political will is there. But the problem will come from the civil servants. They will delay the entire project. So the civil service structure is so needs seriously. But I must say that they have somebody that is heading it, Dr. Callistus. He's a very strong person to handle some of these issues. But I don't know why. But I have some strong faith in him. He's not somebody you can just push away like that. And they know. Whoever is within the service know. But how to get them and take care of those other people who delay government projects. I think that is a big call to Dr. Callistus to help save this country. He is not a politician, and even if you bring around issues of politics, he will not even mind you. That I know. So he should stand his ground and deal with
such very good people are frustrated by the system. The Bank of Ghana should expedite work on the assessment of the recently announced foreign exchange measures and take speedy and also appropriate action to restore confidence and also relieve the unintended consequences of the measures.
Yes, the measures are there, and usually when they put
just in December we pumped about 20 million. Extra 20 million.
Yes.
Didn't work, did it?
It didn't really work, and sometimes to information management, apart from the physical injection.
Meaning what? Not to create panic, to make sure you manage information.
You manage information.
To give confidence
in the system,
to consumers, to investors.
There won't be panic buying and hoarding.
And withdrawals. Some people just hoard it. Some people withdraw it out of panic, and it worsens and neutralizes the policies. So I think the media, I think that's where economic reportage is also very key, so that information in that market is it's a commodity which is perishable too, and it can disorganize the entire market, especially the capital market issues. Information is very important. So the way we manage, and before the policy even comes, they should come out with the right information, the expected targets, and let people see the benefits to the system.
and calm down the panic in the market, it will also help. And then but they monitor it after not a month will not be enough, getting to 3 months minimum. You would see the indicators again, then you change the other policy. That's why they call that, at least it's over 3 months. By now, they should know that something is wrong somewhere. They do the diagnostic analysis and then prescribe new policies to address the situation. And the taste of Ghanaians too on the market too, and that comes back to one of the recommendations to increase agric and industrial development. As it's called, because import substitution industries, they call to increase their production. It will reduce imports and will save some more foreign currency. It simply is a depreciation, it's demand and supply situation, which is influenced by the information that gets to the market. So if we can manage the inflation, the information very well, and put other measures that will increase agric production, agricultural products will not be important to this country, rather export what we have, then we'll also improve on oh, seriously, because
we can't do that. That's
we can't do that. It is not. You just increase it, then encourage your people. That's why they are calling for the Export Promotion Council.
Increase production locally,
and increase our competitiveness on the world market. Consumption.
And then you also increase competitiveness to the products that you send out.
That's right. And then you balance it balance it with a call on the people to love their country and consume made in Ghana goods. That gives the market. America can only survive any day because they have a large
it can't be done over time, but it means that it may transcend this very term of the administration.
Yeah, the foundation can be there.
So then we have to talk about execute projects and programs commenced by previous governments.
Yeah. Because
then also there should be long-term national interest to supersede all other interests. Because currently that's not what we see.
The point is that, like this case that we have this the minority, the bigger, it's not
decided not to.
So whatever decision they take now, they implement it. Say there's a change of government, they come because they were not part of it. The tendency to change it is very high, and that's what we should stop. A national platform is national platform. We all agree. Then the continuity will come. Then when you come, because you are part of it, you know where to pick from. A few modifications to meet your what do you call it? Your promises, whatever you tell the people, but the ultimate goal should be there. And for all this to be there, that sacrifice must come. And then the injection into the agriculture and industry is so huge. And then calling on Ghanaians to patronize made in Ghana goods, even if they are inferior. You eat it even though it's inferior, you might run. But
at the end of the day, it will get better.
Just know that you're doing it for Ghana.
Just like the Chinese, at the end of the day, they got better.
Yeah, sure.
Because they kept consuming what was theirs.
That's good. Our population is not that huge, but at least if we...
It can be done.
It can be done.
I always equate ourselves to countries like Norway, Singapore, Denmark, and then the other Scandinavian countries. Finland, right? They have very minute populations in terms of small populations.
And their level of production even now exceeds ours.
They have a very good services sector.
Yes, sure.
And the GDP rate, fantastic.
Because they produce more. The land, they don't really have land. Population is really small, but their productivity is very high. So they are part of the upper developing communities and run into the
they are some of the most happiest countries.
Yeah, because cost of living is cool.
The happiest countries in the world you can ever find. Okay, so now if then there is a talk about the Ministry of Finance we're being told government should have an investment program to deal with the energy crisis, and as a matter of urgency, order it to propel growth, employment, competitiveness, and macro stability. The energy crisis, we've been dealing with it, I think, for the last 3 years.
Because of the way we'll be handling it.
Why?
Some of the challenges...
We don't have a program.
To be honest, some of the
There's
challenges...
no document that says that this is how we want to go about
do it.
We just do... We do independent power producers and then we're okay.
Solutions to solve them.
So we need concrete steps.
Concrete. To the long term. And make provision for like excess that we can keep to take care of it. And some of the challenges we are facing now are not within the last 2-3 years. We can trace them to the last 8-10 years. Some of the policies we implemented, we are now getting the effects now. So if the next 5-10 years will be better, we start today. We might not get the gains in the first 2 years. And it's possible that if the government will do things right, and there's a change in government, the next government will take all the glory. Because the gains will hit there. But we have to start somewhere.
That's where the question arises. How would it be possible that a government that also knows that it has a certain term in office to satisfy its manifesto, for which it has to make some accountability
to the people?
Well, perhaps, you know, confessions to the, the electorate.
This is where
and make sure it doesn't lose the next election. Implement a policy that perhaps will see only fruition in the next 6-7 years.
But to be honest, this also goes to the politician, that the interest of the nation should be very supreme. If you have 4 years to run and you do the right things, it might squeeze the economy, but deep in the mind, and then you also check your expenditure patterns and lifestyle of the politician. But what you're doing is the right thing, and the communication is right, that the people understand that this is the right thing. These are sacrifices from government. These are sacrifices we are expected to do to create the desired equilibrium situation that we want in the future. People will understand. Even if they vote you out, you should leave office glad that you did the right thing. And within a shortest possible time, based on what the next government will do, people will get to know that you did the right thing. And that's where your self-interest will go. Do the right thing. Even if you lose the power, you know you did the right thing. And people will appreciate it. I mean, if you look at the development efforts of Ghana, today, the entire Ghanaian economy is basking in the glory of Kwame Nkrumah and possibly Achampong. Because whatever we have to show, we got them from the 7-year deep plan of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But these days, he was a demon because of Kanga Nyamia. There are other strong criticisms against him. But today, everybody thinks Kwame Nkrumah did well. But he's dead and gone. Yeah, it's normal.
He was even overthrown because of some of these extreme...
Some of these, but they realized that he was really taking Ghana. He had the excesses.
So you want the leaders to
forget
be
about their own interests and look at
in a democracy?
Yes.
And they will lose the next election.
They might not lose. People understand. You see that sometimes when you genuinely take a very harsh policy, but you make the people understand. There was a time here that they were supposed to increase fuel, and they told the people of the country that because of that reason, fuel must go by 100%. And it was jammed.
Like currently, we're increasing just like that because we feel that's the reality.
That's the reality. And we will complain, but we just go there and buy. But you don't feel it bitter like when you see one that is not too justified to do. So if the Ghanaians are not dumb, we know. Sometimes we talk, we criticize, but when the reality shows up and you take the right action, we're able to discern, no, this is the right action. Even as you are running the right action, there are group who will still be complaining. But when the results come, they will praise you. The very people, it's just normal of our system. It's our culture. We like to criticize. But at least when the results come, we will also give you we'll praise you for doing a good job. But this calls for sacrifice from the politician, the civil service, and the entire Ghanaian population.
There was one point, I don't know whether it takes steps to develop long-term finance instruments to minimize reliance on short-term financing. No. There was one that also focused on borrowing in country. Domestic borrowing. And that the
index should change. Yes. The cap is there. Yes, but the cap is based on current revenue. Yes. But they wanted to change to
on the previous fiscal.
Yeah, so that the cap will go up, so that it will limit the external
based on the performance, the revenue.
The previous year. Yes. That one is even clear. You see the picture, you know that this is the total quantum, and that means that government can do this much. And remember, every year they always target to increase it. So you can, the cap goes up, and then the government can borrow domestically, so that will reduce the external dependence. That's also good. And then there's some split they are talking about, taking out the total net. Where is it? I read it. Anyway, I can.
You can find it. Okay, and so now, if we do that, how does it make sure perhaps there's enough locally for the private sector and for the other industrial players to also have access to some level of
everything together? It calls for extreme caution on government. So
especially on financial management.
Yeah, management, seriously. So you divert the resources to exactly where we'll create the stability we want in the future. And that means that most of the expenses that will make the politician comfortable must be suspended. and then we'll get to the basics. What will create the foundation?
Why are we making it seem as if there's a politician who spends the most?
It's based on their policy. They sit at cabinet and decide and bring it to parliament, and no matter what minority will say, they will still pass it through, and they run it. And if the expenditure goes to an area that will not really create that necessary foundation for stability, we'll still be there. They will spend it and won't get it. But now it should go by, like, if the monetary management team, the Bank of Ghana and those would do what they're supposed to do to ensure macro stability, then they channel the little we have into productive, which will create the jobs, then we'll get there.
Okay. What they call the Senchi consensus.
And that will mean that a lot of labor agitations this time will be ignored, and that's going to be trouble.
Okay. We'll see. If everybody's supposed to be part of it, then it has to be all-inclusive.
You realize that most of the labor groups are not asking for anything new. They're asking for their due. And that government was almost everybody and everything. And they have to service that, as well as creating the value that we need for the stable tomorrow. And that requires prudence.
Point 16, the Senchi consensus, they call it. Government must take steps to revamp the manufacturing and agricultural sectors,
right,
to encourage domestic production of some agricultural products, as well as import substitutable manufactured goods.
That's good. It's the best. It's what we've been calling for all these years. Every economist who will talk about development, number one, must talk about your industry. And
the agricultural sector, what hope is there in the agricultural sector?
A lot. If you go to Syria, Ghana can be a leading
because everybody is so positive about the agricultural sector.
Because we have the potential in the sub-region and the world at large. Yes, if you take the proportion, the number, I was privileged to take a course in George Mason, USA, and I had to travel to Indiana, and I saw farmland, plantations, and sometimes they cultivate throughout the year. It's like they take the first bite, they move to the second plot. While they are on the second plot, some people will be working on the first one. By the time they get to the last one plowing, the first one has started harvesting. I mean, throughout the year. And Indiana is a farming community, a very small, poor state, they claim. But it's
a farming state.
Yeah.
They feed the U.S., but it's a poor state.
Yeah, that's what they claim. But if you compare it to Ghana, it will be the richest country in the world. But then if you come to Ghana, look at the number of people who are into agriculture, and yet domestic, we still import. Sometimes cassava and those other tomatoes are brought from Ouagadougou and other places. You go to the market, they tell you that this is Ghana tomatoes, this is this place tomatoes, and the prices are different. Why can't we simply produce tomatoes in Ghana to take care of ourselves? Another one. I mean, the potential is there. Cereals, we take the northern region, cotton, cereals, like any kind of cereals, like Guinea millet, Guinea corn, maize, we can do. And where are the state farms? Don't you think we should revamp the all state farms? Because they create jobs. All those who are from the rural area, and then at least most of the young guys from my community who are in town within Tema and Ashama, and they are pushing truck, they can get jobs on the farms. And one of the areas that there was a farm was Damongo, where we had the agric. Now we have the agric training college. It was a Greek institute because farming was huge there. But today, the whole, if you go to a place we call settlement within Damongo, it was a farming community. And the farmers are supposed to be there. They put up some houses for them to stay there for the farming, and then get back to the community weekends and come back to like work. You go to work from Monday to Friday, get back to the community weekends. It's you know that the machines are still there. As kids growing up, we used to go and cut the pipes to do some raffles to play with. But then you can go and see them physically. Where are the state farms? We'll get back to that. Go to the cocoa sector. You see the area. You see a large virgin land, which is good for cocoa, but it's bush. It's not even forest. Why can't we go increase that? The few farmers who are there, we back that they have increased productivity, add more to give some incentives for more farmers to come on board because the land is lying there. Everything we want to produce agric is there. Then we come to industry. If you produce enough, you cannot consume everything. So you would have to avoid waste. What do? Manufacturing comes, you process them, and it also creates a job. And I think our development, the National Development Commission has a big job to do. We must call on them, compel them, and force them to give us a development plan. And every politician must be part of it.
How critical has this forum been to the subject of putting together a national development plan that will be accepted by all, for which a consensus will be needed to make sure it's implemented to the letter?
I think after this one, what I've observed is that this forum has actually calmed everybody down, because at least there's an effort to solicit opinion. It has calmed everybody down. So you can ride on this unity and love for Ghana and come with the idea, call another forum for a national. Let all the political parties, business, everybody again come with the idea how they want Ghana to be. Then you put the things together, you get a committee to put it together. Then we all agree, all politicians, this is the national agenda. And we agree. Now that will mean that every party will now use it as a main document like our constitution, and then fashion their manifesto. So that MPP will just tell us that they will take us here, they will use this route. And then NDC says they will use this route, but ultimately, and that continuity we are calling will continue, because this is a national document. And that means that, and I want to believe strongly, the New Patriotic Party would have learned from this boycott. And when there's that call for that national document, I'm not sure they will boycott it again. They will be there. Then we have such a national document. And that on that platform, no political, we just get, even if we have to get experts from other countries that structured their development efforts, bring them on board to serve as a neutral, I'll get the academia to chair such people. They don't, and if you can't get somebody from Ghana, because virtually in Ghana, everybody is either...
Well, we have to wrap up then, but they said government must take steps to galvanize consensus around other issues of national importance, especially with respect to political governance, nation-building matters, and should initiate a process of involving citizens whose experience, insight, and expertise will enhance economic policy management and national governance.
Yeah.
Well, we had the MPP not attending,
yeah,
and that took a shine out of the event.
And that's not good for the nation and for they themselves. Because what's the motivation? You want to run this government, this country, and this is an opportunity to contribute. Why wouldn't you be there? And even that would mean that if there's a party in power, you can cut across, pick an expert from the minority and give him a duty. If you won't even make him a clear-cut minister, you can serve on the board. And when you are serving on the board, you are not serving there as an MPP person. You are serving there as an expert.
Yes, and you will not let the company collapse. No, because as a board chairman, or even as a... Yes.
That is what the call is coming from. That's why I
not necessarily making somebody the minister, right?
No, not necessarily.
But putting him in a position where he can make meaningful contribution based on his expertise. I like you. I think you should be in government one day, depending on which party you would want to support. Okay, so we've been having in the studio Gilbert Ibrahim. He's an economist, and he's also a lecturer with the University of Cape Coast. Well, so we've been discussing the outcome of the National Economic Dialogue and what the efforts there are to make sure that we build a consensus to ensure we build a country that is resilient and an economy whose variables will always be sustainable for equitable distribution of wealth and other resources the country may generate. That's it.